Good afternoon. I don't have a problem being too far away from the microphone, height-wise, for sure. I just start out saying, Assemblyman Johns, your eye looks a little bit like, and I'm sorry for that, looks a little bit like a lot of how the educators feel, so it's ironic tonight. And Assemblyman Hawley, the only perspective I could give you that would be perfect would be if you're thinking about a change process, think about your experience working with Mike Glover at Genesee Valley BOCES, which many of us participated in the time you were there. That type of change process is what we need, not what we're into. So if you're looking for a lens to look at it as, think about those experiences. My name is Kevin McGowan. I'm the superintendent in the Brighton Central School District. I'm also president of the Monroe County Council of School Superintendents, and I am very excited to be here, and thank you for taking the time to hear us out. I'm also proud to work with Rachel Rosner, who spoke to you before, and several teachers who will offer input to you today, Bill Baldwin, I know for sure, and Joan Gears. And I mention their names because I'm very proud to support them in what they're going to say to you and express to you in that way that we are in this together as parents, as educators, teachers, and administrators sharing many of the same frustrations. I'm fortunate to work as a teammate with a staff of over 600 dedicated people who work tirelessly to support 3,600 students, their families, and our community. Our teachers and administrators are artists in many ways. They take the raw material they are presented with and create incredible works of art. They do so with painstaking attention to detail, commitment, and a special eye towards the beauty of learning. They have and continue to inspire thinkers, innovators, and great citizens who are focused on solving problems, addressing issues, and doing so collaboratively. They are among the very best at their craft. So the reform agenda has presented us with particular challenges, and I would like to mention a few of those to you today and briefly and directly provide a backdrop and a few suggestions that we think might be manageable, realistic, and fair solutions for the situation that we're all in. First, on the positive, I agree that not all students in our country and in our state are receiving an education that will prepare them for what lies ahead. There is a crisis. I don't think it has been articulated clearly enough, and I think some of the blame has been misplaced. I think we need to understand, as many of the speakers have said, there are other issues at play, not necessarily those that educators have necessarily caused in any way. And I agree that we should be doing better for children living in poverty and those who have limited access to the same learning opportunities and experiences that children in more affluent areas have. A common set of rigorous standards is a noble effort aimed at lifting as many boats as possible, as quickly as possible, the hope being that more children will be better prepared. I also recognize that there has been an effort to implement this massive change in policy perhaps quickly for fear that a meaningful, longer-lasting change process would be stalled and perhaps not be successful because there would be so many obstacles in the way. The Common Core standards are generally pretty good. They resemble great work being done by many educators in high-performing districts. It's hard to argue with a high bar that I think will help level the playing field for many children while developing more critical thinkers who are able to analyze and problem solve in different ways and perhaps at a deeper level. It would have made sense to implement a curriculum that had been provided to educators with more time for feedback and eventual adjustment, then provide resources for implementation, then implement an assessment that could fairly evaluate one's success in implementing that curriculum, and if it was really needed, then implement a system for the evaluation of the individuals most directly responsible for implementing that system. Instead, a set of standards were rushed into schools without enough time or resources for meaningful implementation. A set of tests were given to assess a curriculum that hadn't been implemented with full knowledge that children as young as 8 years old would be taking tests that they were likely to fail. That was laid out pretty clearly before the tests were given, that the results would be pretty bad. Yes, we gave a test to small children that we knew they would be unsuccessful in passing. Who does that to children? So to raise the bar and push the system, small children were put into a situation we knew they would be unsuccessful at. Simultaneously, we were required to negotiate and then implement a system for evaluation that required measuring many teachers' success, at least in part based on the poor testing, based on poor implementation, and it didn't do a lot for credibility in the system, to say the least. So I offer the following suggestions and additional thoughts. Common Core is generally good, as I mentioned, but I would suggest that the state make a much better effort to modify where necessary so as to not lose the artistry of teachers in the classroom and opportunities for creativity and innovation. Convene groups of teachers, administrators, and researchers who can collaboratively and intelligently modify the standards as needed, not lower the standard, but improve the standard. Reduce state test sessions, the time taken for tests, and the number of sample questions in the assessments. Place sample questions at the end of the test so that fatigue only impacts the research, not a student's score. Right now, those questions are throughout the assessment. Continue to encourage the department to look for waivers from federal requirements so that assessments make more sense for children with special needs, or in cases like the 8th grade math, where they are applying for a waiver so that students won't be double tested. Those are the types of solutions we really need to look at this point. Require the state to provide timely and transparent assessment results. Allow us to see individual test booklets and their scoring so teachers can actually use the data to inform their practice. It could be meaningful. We don't have access to that type of information. Place a moratorium on the use of all test data in teacher evaluations until such time as the state assessments can be shown to be a valid and reliable measure, and until a transparent formula can be developed to fairly account for the mitigating circumstances that impact student performance and are out of a teacher's control. Engineer flexibility for when districts are achieving that high level. Do not push everyone to the middle. Allow for those who exceed expectations to push themselves farther and in different ways. This allows for diversity in the system and opportunities for students and teachers who have demonstrated success to take a next step towards solving problems instead of just complying. Require the state education department, please, to work with school districts to communicate in a timely and clear fashion and to provide support as opposed to just requiring compliance. Finally, we need help. We're here today because we care deeply about this work, because we recognize the impact that our work has on the future for children and the communities that we live in. We are actually grateful that there is such a dialogue happening. We just need help. We need resources, we need passion, we need courage. We need children and families supported through greater access to healthcare, nutritional programs, and mental health support. We can't do it alone, and we are grateful for any partners who want to take on these challenges that will help children in our communities. So thank you.